And Harold hates, cock-a-doodle-doo.
Yes.
Well, New Year's is just gone.
Yes.
I don't think people are partying like they used to.
Right.
But apparently Ipswich has been known for being a bit boring around New Year's Eve.
Wrong. Okay.
And H is going to look back at some of the dullest New Year's Eves in Ipswich.
Okay.
How are you, Harold?
Oh, I'm a bit bored today researching this story. It's been very dull, the last few days with New Year's Eve, but it's a bit bored.
So what have we done in the past? We haven't blown up houses or...
No, look, it's not much. It's look, I'll take a look back at some of the dullest New Year's in Ipswich, and look, I'll start with New Year's in 1918, and that was just another quiet day in Ipswich. The only news was about the weather being positively unpleasant to be outdoors. That was the big story. But what was unique about 1918 was that it was the start of the last year of the First World War. And the public holiday that came with it was a blessing of sorts because it allowed large crowds of Ipswich people to be at the railway station to welcome home another big batch of returned invalid soldiers. So it's a bit different that year. But then New Year's Day in 1945, which was the start of the last year of the Second World War, that was a little different again because by then some new traditions had been established in Ipswich. One tradition was that when the post office clock struck midnight, a railway engine somewhere in the distance sounded its whistle. Well, hopefully that goes on today. Another tradition was that everyone left town. They couldn't wait to get out of Ipswich. Trains were packed leaving Ipswich in the morning, followed by a steady stream of sunburnt locals coming home at night. That's because they'd all gone to Sandgate. They just had to get out of town. So the other big tradition for Ipswich was that after midnight, and this is a bit concerning, Danny, ribald comments were written using soap on shop windows.
Wow.
Now, I'm not going to quote any here, but you can imagine the type of things people wrote. With soap. So they're the three big traditions that became Ipswich's own. But it was all pretty boring, especially when you look at some of the between the war years. I'll just look at some of the more boring ones there. For example, for the 1929 New Year, there was no difference between that and any other night in Ipswich. The cinemas attracted, their modest crowds, but everyone went straight home. Cafes stayed open maybe, 15, 20 minutes afterwards. And a rainstorm, of course, and any loiterers running. So it was just deserted. And at midnight, when the post office clock struck 12, a few straggling fireworks went off in the distance, and the only people in the streets were police who were there to control absolutely no one.
Nobody. So it was just boring, weren't we?
Yeah, but then again, soap writing had begun with one practical joker that year scrawling 1929 on a window. Really, really serious stuff. But what was really exciting was a couple of the banks celebrated by balancing their books, and lights in their offices showed accountants excitedly toiling away at midnight. So for accountants out there, it was a really big year, or end of year. So it just gets better. In 1930, that year, New Year's in Ipswich was actually duller than normal. Even the people who left town, they came home early because of rain. The only excitement that year was a two-storied house and shop in Blackall Street and Basin Pocket was completely destroyed by fire in the early hours of the morning.
Wow.
It was owned by Mrs. Mary Ann Dwyer, who earlier had complained to the mayor about the bad state of the street. But Mrs. Dwyer had the foresight to insure her home for £1,500.
Wow.
By using 4 insurance policies. So she covered the risk in her fight with the mayor. And then her neighbour was Mr. August Janke. He was a retired farmer whose wife had taken the unusual step of obtaining a court order to stop him from drinking alcohol for a year.
Wow.
He had to go to court to get that done. Wow. Anyway, look, for 1931, nothing happened other than the usual mass exodus from Ipswich in sweltering weather. And then New Year's Day 1932 was more of the same, with the blowing of train whistle and another mass exodus. There were actually that year 300 train tickets sold in the morning. So many, in fact, that 2 special trains had to be put on just because people wanted to leave Ipswich.
Really?
The only excitement was that Mr. Charles Milne, a 36-year-old married man of Wall Street, he was riding his bicycle when he collided with a motorcycle.
Huh.
That was the big news of New Year's 1932. And in 1933, well, the tolling of the clock and one or two random crackers were the only audible evidence that a new year had dawned. It was one of the quietest Ipswich New Year's on record, 1933. And for 1934, well, the new year was again ushered in with scarcely a sound. There were the railway whistles, a half-hearted cracker or two, and actually some city shop windows, they were disfigured with soap. But other than that, it was unbearably hot and muggy. And so each year it goes on the same. So, Danny, next time you find yourself alone on a New Year's Eve,
yes,
you're probably having a pretty exciting time based on historical Ipswich standards.
It was boring. It really was boring, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, you'd hear the toot of a train and, everyone's left town and, you and your mates are out there with soap.
Just quickly, remember the old days at the churches, someone used to ring the bell on the air or something?
Oh, well, you used to still do ring the bells to call everyone to church on the Sunday mornings.
Do they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, when they're allowed to, because churches in suburban areas, the people live around it, get a bit weird and they don't want to be woken up. And I reckon, well, maybe you should be woken up. But anyway.
Yeah, well, now listen, you have got, how do we see that story and read it again and read all the other stories you've done?
Yeah, look, you can find history out there in all the socials. It's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and they all point to my website, historyouthere.com.
And don't forget to get on there and give us an arc. So that was Harold the H, arc, P, cock-a-doodle-doo on West Bremer Radio. You'll hear him about this time each week out of the 8 o'clock news on West Bremer Radio. The time is 8:19.